Hi, welcome to The Pursuit of the Truth. It's still the 17th of May 2018. This morning I might have been a little bit quiet. I didn't want to awake everyone. I didn't mean that. I meant to awake you listening, but I didn't mean to awake the people in the house because I was sleeping. When I saw that yesterday, I was a lot more incensed. It's funny how when in the morning, when you see it again, you don't feel so angry. When I heard it first, I was quite angry. Not angry, but sort of more passionate than I was in the morning. It's a bit like the Grenfell thing. It's been a year, I believe, since the Grenfell incident. At the time, everyone was so up in arms about it, but now everyone has forgotten about it. And it's interesting how I think that's why governments, they tend to, especially with investigations, they take years, ages. They can never do anything really quickly. And I think that's because they know that the human psyche will move on to something else, or something else will incense them or whatever, and so you won't be angry about that thing anymore. Obviously the people involved will still be angry, but everything fades, isn't it? Even we know that when people lose loved ones, they do eventually get over it to a certain extent. So maybe that is why governments seem to be, every single thing to do with government takes so long, unless they want money from you, and then it's instant. But to pay you back the money, 28 days. Yeah, because they want to live off a bit of all that interest of yours. So that story in the morning about how that journalist, you said is it worth it? And I'd like him to ask people, if in this country, or the country where you're living now, if it was taken over, if you were occupied, would you think it was worth it to try and get your country back? It's funny how when if that was asked here, obviously people would say yes, but when it's to another country, especially a country that we may deem as being a certain way, then suddenly it's oh no, you shouldn't be throwing stones, you shouldn't be protesting. Yeah, you should be in your homes, eating your dinner, watching your TV, forgetting about everything. Don't worry about it. Be occupied. And of course, obviously, this Israel-Palestine thing has been going on for years now, isn't it? And Israel haven't followed the UN resolution that they're meant to with that land that they seized. Was it 1967? The whole thing is, the thing that saddens me as a Muslim is the fact that both Muslims and Jews and the Christians can't get along in the most holiest of places that we all agree upon as being, each one of us has some claim to that part of the world, and yet we're destroying it. We can't look past these little petty things. We can't share the world that is all of ours anyway. No matter who actually ever owns it, it will always be ours. As in, I don't mean Muslims as a Muslim, I mean ours as in humanity. God gave his children, that's us, this place, and we must share it together, no matter if this man claims it's his, it's not his, it's all of ours, because that's how it is. So I don't understand why people can't get along. I mean, I know that's very simplistic, isn't it? It's because, obviously if you're occupied you wouldn't. But obviously Britain played a part in messing this up and buying this land, and whoever they bought it off, a prince or whoever who claimed that it was his, well, it wasn't really his, was it? It was all of his people's, but that's what these people do. He sold his land, caused all this problem, and now I'm not going to get into that. I can see both sides don't act appropriately, Muslims and Jews and Christians, and it doesn't look like that's going to sort itself out anytime soon. Yeah, so the other thing I was thinking about, I was listening to Subtle Infinity's new video. I think he posted it yesterday. A little bit about stereotyping, really. If you think, when people say about, this is slightly off it, but I was watching this and it made me think these things. So it might not be necessarily connected with his video. But you know, a lot of people who talk about conspiracies and flat Earth and stuff, and they say that, you know, governments wouldn't lie to us, this, that, and the other. And I've been mentioning a lot of times all these things that are in plain sight. And another one of them is the idea of how we see people. Like if I was to say, how do you see, I don't know if this term is a proper term to use, but the term that I've been taught, Red Indian, how would you see them? You would say, oh, this is a person wearing like the triangle type skirt with a bow and arrow and axe, with some face paint, like a crown thing on his head, you know, going you know, chasing cowboys. Black people, you'd say, oh, gangs, drugs, thugs. White people, oh, James Bond, Spider-Man. Do you see the coding in that? And you see that in like films. You know, I've never met not that I know of personally, face to face, an indigenous person of America. But I have all these pictures and all these thoughts about them. Where did I get them from? Television. And they're always portrayed as like, oh, the you know, oh, they've stolen a white girl and this, that, and the other. They're not portrayed, well, what is the actual fact about them? Well, the fact is that their land was taken, and they were murdered, and they were conned out of their land, same as in Africa with Cecil Rhodes. You know, so, but that's not the picture that I have of them, is it? So, you've already been lied to. Yeah, and this is just one small thing I'm bringing up. But you do realise that, isn't it? A lot of the things, actually think about all the things that you know, and actually think, are they actually real or not? Where did I know this information from? And was it true? But then of course you could say, wow, that wasn't the government who were making those films, was it? But why is your mind full of so many things that are inaccurate? If you actually met real people that were involved in these situations, you'd get a completely different story and an outlook. So what's going on here? Isn't it? Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.